Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. I really am so grateful for the time that you choose to spend with me each week, and I just love it. And I'm so grateful for you. And I hope that you are off to a fabulous January and you just have intention and direction and passion for all that this new year is holding for you. If you don't, you are certainly not alone in that. And I just want you to know that I see you and I hear you, and I am cheering you on from here. If you have realized a dream that's in your heart, but you just don't know how you're going to get there, or if you are finding yourself just in the absolute thick of I don't know-ness, I would love to hold space for you, to provide an opportunity for you to talk about these things and find out what is in your heart. You know that you are here for so much more. And I know that about you too. So let's connect. Send me a DM, send me an email, give me a call, whatever you need to do. As I mentioned a few weeks ago, I am putting together a fabulous community that is going to answer questions just like this. So if that is a question that's on your heart, if that's a place that you feel that you are in right now, then I invite you into the Say Yes Sisterhood, where together we are going to investigate these questions and investigate the answers that are already inside of us. They are just a little quieter than we need them to be. So if that sounds like something that's of interest to you, please reach out and I will get you all the information you need. So today's episode, oh my gosh, you are going to love this woman. She is fierce and she is not messing around, and she is a woman of action, and I really loved this conversation. So Diann Wingert is a coach. She became a business strategist coach after 20 years as a psychotherapist. Her mission is to help female solopreneurs with big ideas and busy brains get focused, fired up, and flame retardant. Diann is the creator of the Boss Up Breakthrough and host of the Driven Woman Entrepreneur podcast. Now, perhaps like me, when you hear that bio, you think, holy smokes, now that woman has figured it out. And I'm not sure if that's a conversation I'm ready to have, because I'm still in the question, or I'm not as far along as she is, or whatever things that go through our head when we are in conversations that feel a little bit out of our league. You know, that is absolutely how I felt going into this conversation. And Diann is so skilled at putting people at ease. She is so present and intentional. You just can't help but be caught up in her fabulous energy and in her encouragement. And so I invite you into the tidal wave that is Diann. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did.
Diann, I am so thrilled to have this conversation, to see your beautiful face, and just be in your gorgeous energy. I've so enjoyed getting to know of you more through this group that we're in. And I just have to say, and I know I already said it when you first got on the call, but I just appreciate your intention and your thoughtfulness in the way that you comment and respond to things, that it's making me so eager for this conversation because you are a wordsmith and you really draw people in with your care. So thank you for that.
I think you have to be here for that, Wendy. So I'm not trying to flip a compliment back to you, but I'm going to do so because not everybody is here for someone who is a deep thinker, who's thoughtful, who's mindful, who's wise, who's intentional, and who shares very directly and very freely of their wisdom and experience. Some people find it, let me be honest, obnoxious. Some people find it overwhelming. Some people find it intimidating. So I think it's a really good sign when the other person who's receiving that is so open to it. So that's on you.
I received that. Thank you. And it's interesting because that is causing me to recall times when I've been really generous with my words, whether it's I'm standing in line behind someone and their outfit is too darling not to comment on, or their hair looks great, or whatever. Thank you for coming to work today. And sometimes it it feels like that person may think that I'm not being genuine or I'm just speaking in flattery, and I am really sincere. So I think that is why I can spot it in you as well.
I think of it as childlikeness, to be honest with you, because when I see something that surprises or delights me, when I meet someone that evokes my curiosity, when something tickles my fancy, when something just makes me magnetically attracted to it. It's a person, it's a thing, it's a place, it's an idea, could be music, anything. I am really captivated easily by things. Now, I'm not gullible and I'm not flighty, but when something like grabs me, I let it grab me and I will express that. And so if someone's wearing an outfit that I think is just to die for, I'm going to say, your style is amazing. I met a woman recently at a funeral like that. She everyone else was wearing black and she was wearing black on these palazzo pants, but she had these really cool glasses and she had this chartreuse top on that I thought was such an unexpected choice for a funeral. And she looked so sharp and so stylish and she stood out from everyone else. And I marched directly across the room to meet her. And most of the men that were there were just kind of standing back like, what's going to happen? Like, I don't know. Did they think I was going to go start a cat fight or something? I just couldn't wait to go compliment her and tell her I wanted to meet her because she was just putting out this beacon of fantastic, attractive energy. So, but you're right. Not everybody's for it. Some people are like, I've literally had people tell me, "You're scary." I've had countless people across my lifetime, starting in my teens, tell me I'm intimidating. And I once had a woman who signed up for a consultation to potentially hire me as a coach. And we got a few minutes into it. I said, "How are you feeling about this so far?" And she said, "Oh, I could never hire someone like you. You're way too confident." I said, I got to admit, I've never heard that one before. But I said, I trust and respect that you know what's right for you. Shall we end the call now? She said, yes, please. And we did. So,
Oh my goodness.
isn't that fascinating? But, one of the things I love about being at this stage of life is I like to think of it's taken me this long to become who I really am because after 50, especially, I'm doing more unlearning than I am learning. And a lot of that is shedding these notions about who I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to like, how I'm supposed to act, how I'm supposed to behave. And because I'm a big personality, a lot of the messages I've gotten through life are that I need to dial it down. And I'm just not accepting that call anymore.
I love that so much about you. I feel like because living in Massachusetts was a lifelong dream for my little Southern California heart, that now that I'm actually here and it's been 10 years, I am so filled with delight. I am so present for
Mm.
what is happening and what my days are filled with. And it's just glorious and cannot go unnoticed or unspoken about. And I love that I'm sharing that genuine glee and delight with my daughter Amelia. And I love when she points things out to me as well. We are just basking in the beauty that's all around us in nature, but I think it has so much to do with the decision to be where our feet are and to really be present and mindful and aware so that we are available for these experiences.
You have to have an open mind, open eyes and ears, and an open heart. And I know that most people probably believe they do. I mean, most people say, I have an open mind, and they really think they do. But I think to truly have an open mind, you have to have the capacity to not filter your day to day, moment to moment experience, to actually show up with the eyes of a child. And that's why I don't inhibit these impulses, because if something strikes me as delightful, I might even squeal, you know? And I learned for so many years, dial it down, dial it down, dial it down. Diann, you're too much. You're
Mm.
way too much. You're too much for people. You're overwhelming. So, okay, if that's true, I'll dial it down. But I realize I may be too much for some people. I may be too much for a lot of people, but I'm exactly right for the right people. And I'm never going to find them if I don't show up as I really am. So if I'm surprised and delighted, if I'm curious, if I'm entertained, I'm going to be the person who is going to ask the most questions. I'm going to laugh the loudest at the comedy hour. I'm going to walk around and talk to everybody and get to know everybody. Yes, there's a lot of ADHD going on there, and there's also a lot of extroversion. But I don't want to leave this life without extracting all the joy and wonder and magic there is in it. And especially as I've gotten older, I have a much more exquisite appreciation for how short a time we're truly here. I think I squandered a lot of time when I was younger because it's also partly an ADHD trait. It's just like, I'll do it later. I'm like, I was just kicking the can down the road, kicking the can down the road. Like, oh, I don't feel like it right now. I'll do it later. And then all of a sudden you're 50.
Mhm.
It's like, "Oh, gee whiz, I didn't see that coming," which is kind of ridiculous when you realize I literally said this, not once either, multiple times. Like, "How could I be 50? Like, it's, like, so soon?" And
Right.
it's like, "Girl, it's not like you didn't have a warning, like, you've literally been celebrating birthday after birthday, year after year. Like, how did this sneak up on you?"
There were a lot of
And
distractions.
Well, certainly I've had 3 marriages, 3 kids, moves, job changes, career changes. I've even changed my religion. There's been a lot of changes in my life. So, yes, a lot of distractions. But I started practicing meditation and mindfulness about 20
Mm,
years ago. And that maybe more than even the awareness of the passage of time has helped me begin to practice being more present, as you mentioned,
mm,
being open to what actually is instead of what I think it should be in my head, and then being curious about what actually is. Oh, well, I didn't expect this. I wonder why this is happening instead of what I thought. And then refusing to judge myself, my
mm,
reactions, my disappointments, my worries, my doubts, or how other people are behaving, and just sort of be in this state of suspended disbelief
mm,
like
mm.
my whole life is this magical event that's unfolding one moment at a time, and I get to be here for the whole thing. I know that might sound ridiculous to some people, and it might sound very childish to others, but I choose to see it as childlike, and I aspire to be even more childlike as I get older, which probably if I start having dementia, that will come true for sure. But I mean, you know what I mean. I think you know what I mean, right?
Oh, I do, and I love everything that you just shared, and what came up for me was these comments about "you're too much" or "you need to dial it down," and the way that you seek people out and you have conversations and you laugh the loudest and you don't concern yourself with other people's opinion. The beauty of that and why it works and why it's enjoyable to be around you is because there's this secret ingredient, which is awareness. Because
Mm,
often people are laughing the loudest and not caring what other people think because they lack self awareness and they
yes.
don't understand how the way that they're moving around in the world or in the room is actually offensive to the people that they're interacting with because they're turned off to social cues or what's happening around them. And I think you're coming from the opposite direction where you are so aware, you are so grounded, you are so in tune with what you desire and what delights you that when those things meet up, it's a party. Like, these are the things I love. I have a similar reaction when I hear a bottle of champagne open. Like, oh,
Mhm.
did someone just call my name? I'm pretty sure I
It's
heard
the party bell.
that's right. There's just this cause and effect of these things. And it's interesting that you've used the word delight so often. My listeners know this, but you and I have not been friends long enough for you to know that I am actually only available for what delights me.
Mm. We are destined to be friends.
We
I'm
are.
gonna I'm gonna tell you something.
Please.
I think because I'm gonna say this. I love choosing to think life is not happening to me,
Yeah.
it's happening for me. Now,
100%.
I know that that quote is attributed to Tony Robbins, and I am not necessarily a Tony Robbins fan. However, given my history and all the things that I experienced early on in life, as well as a number of events throughout my adult life, if I wanted to, if I chose to see myself as a victim, nobody would say, "Oh, come on, it wasn't that bad," because it absolutely freaking was. And I still choose to think so many of the things I've been through have actually helped me develop traits that I prize and I am so grateful for. And I doubt I would have developed them otherwise. It's called post traumatic growth. And it
Mm,
it doesn't happen for everyone. Um, some people are deeply and irrevocably damaged by things that have happened to them. And for some small percentage of people, those things are a catalyst for growth. And so, yes, I have become excruciatingly aware of myself because I got so much negative feedback
mm,
growing up. I mean, I remember being in the second grade. This is going to hurt your heart because you have a young child. In the second grade, I was such an eager kid. I loved learning. I still love learning. I will always love learning. And I was in the front row, middle seat, and every time the teacher was asking a question, if I my hand was up in the air because not because I was a show off, not because I was an attention seeker, not because I was hyperactive, although I probably was a little bit, but I was just so eager to participate. And I got singled out and shamed in front of the whole class by my second grade teacher, who put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Put your hand down."
mm,
And I did not get the message that it's not okay to keep raising your hand because you probably know all the answers. The message I got was that it's not okay to be curious,
Mhm.
it's not okay to be eager, it's not okay to desire more. You need to want and need and desire less. And
Oh.
that message kind of just sunk in my little brain and followed me subconsciously for many, many years. I actively sought to want, need, and desire less. And anytime I felt I wanted more than I had, I gaslit and shamed myself. I told myself I was selfish. I told myself I was greedy. I told myself that I was obnoxious and insatiable. And did it ever change who I fundamentally am? No, it masked who I
Mm.
fundamentally am and put me into hiding for a great many years. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And I think it's a common experience for smart girls in
right.
particular.
Hmm. How did you thank you for sharing that. That is beautiful and heart-wrenching, as you said it would be. How was that process of changing that narrative for you?
Well, I know you have a daughter, so this will resonate with you. I was adopted and I was adopted into an abusive family. And so I grew up with a bunch of other kids, but none of them were kin.
Mhm.
So I'm 5'10". I have blonde hair and blue eyes. Uh, I'm fair skinned. I'm loud. And my adoptive mother is like 5'3"
Mm.
and curvy, brunette, curly hair, brown eyes, and very different personality. So I stuck out like a sore thumb. And this was during the years that, it was not considered a good thing to be adopted. So I'm glad to see how much our culture has evolved or along those lines. But back at that time,
Sure.
nobody wanted to admit their kid was adopted, and you did not want to admit you were. And I wasn't even told. I accidentally found out when I was 9 years old. So I reached a point where I came to the awareness that I'm trying so desperately to fit in,
Mm.
but I'm not okay as I am. I need to like make myself smaller, make myself quieter, make myself less enthusiastic, make myself less inquisitive, less
Mm.
curious, less eager, like all the things. And I've gone through so many experiences in life trying to see where do I fit? Where do I fit? It's like that book, Are You My Mother? Right?
Mm,
The
yes,
children's book, Are You My Mother? And so I was constantly, do I fit here? Do I fit here? Do I fit here? Do I fit here? I'm very grateful that I discovered the work of Brene Brown some time ago and I started coming to understand. And I was a psychotherapist for 20 years, but for some reason, some of these things didn't like sink all the way through to me about
Sure.
vulnerability, belonging and self-worth until my third child, my only daughter, started getting feedback from people at school that she was too much. Now, we are both
Mm.
ADHD and we're both gifted, and she has a very different personality than me, but we have those fundamental traits in common. And when she started coming home telling me that she was being told that she was intimidating and that she had a resting bitch face and that she was too smart and too opinionated and too outspoken, I lost my mind
Of course you
because
did.
I thought, wait a minute, she hadn't been through any of the childhood trauma that I had. And she's still getting these messages that she's not okay. Like, I'm not, Mama Bear is on the job.
Right.
So I kind of started by trying to help Marissa understand
Mm.
what it is about her that was evoking this response. And none of this is okay, but she's tall, she's attractive, she's intelligent, she's outspoken, she's well spoken, she's grounded. Like all of these things are magnificent. She's confident, but they labeled her as a threat to not only men, but other women, including teachers. So I thought so many of the things I had experienced that I just thought were me,
Mhm.
I realized, oh, she's getting this message too. So my impetus initially was to help my child make sense of her experience and
Mm.
teach her how to advocate for herself. But I started realizing, hey, you could tear a few pages from this book too. So
Right.
I eventually reached a point, Wendy, where it's formed the basis of how I work with my coaching clients now. And that is what I call the practice of radical self acceptance.
Say more, please.
Well, radical self acceptance is probably not what one might think when they first hear it, because the word radical always sounds like you're angry and militant and aggressive and you want to fight. I am willing to go toe to toe, eye to eye, nose to nose with anyone to discuss differences of perspective, opinion, worldview, but I've never lifted my mitts to anyone, and nor will I. It's the decision that no matter what, no matter what mistake I may have made, no matter how badly I may have failed, maybe I inadvertently offended or hurt someone's feelings because I wasn't sensitive to how they were experiencing me in the moment, I still choose to accept myself no matter what. Now, it's self acceptance that's coupled with radical responsibility.
Sure.
Because I'm so aware of myself, I will be able to see pretty quickly when I've crossed the line.
Mhm.
If I'm just simply a little bit too confident, a little bit too outspoken, a little bit too powerful, I may dial it down just a little bit if it's really important for that person to continue to hear me.
Mm.
But if it's a matter of they don't like, I remember one time a woman said to me, she was literally just sitting there with her mouth hanging open, staring at me. And we were in a gathering, and it was very distracting to me. I wanted to reach over and
Right.
clamp her lips together. But I finally just thought, what the hell? So I looked over, I said, is there something you'd like to ask me? And she wasn't even aware that she was just literally open mouthed staring.
Wow.
And she kind of closed her mouth. And I said, are you sure? Is there something you'd like to say to me? And I realized that's probably way too confrontational for most people. But I was not being aggressive. I was
Right.
curious and fascinated, and I was giving her an opportunity because there was something very captivating about me in that moment, and I don't know what it is. So she said, "Well, I've just seen you in these situations a lot of times, and "You're always so passionate." And she
Hmm.
was really perplexed by this. Like, for her, that felt odd and like it didn't make any sense. She didn't know what I had to be so passionate about. No one else was being that way, and she was trying to make sense of me given the environment.
Hmm.
And, I said, "Well, if it's helpful to just think of me, that's just how I am. It's just how I am. It's not the environment that's bringing it out in me.
Right.
It's who I am regardless of the environment." And I don't think I could have done that 10 years ago, certainly not 20 or
Mm.
30 years ago, because as soon as I would have seen somebody looking at me like that, I would have clamped my own mouth shut.
Sure.
And now it's like, okay, if I've offended somebody, and I occasionally do, like we've recently, well, in the last 5 years, we've moved 3 times.
Okay.
And each time we've moved, my husband and I, we've moved to a community where we don't know anyone.
Mm.
So I'm making new friends as a grown ass woman.
Right.
And something I've learned about myself, I know what makes me a good friend,
Mm.
and I know what makes me a friend that some people might not want to have.
Hmm.
Like I'm really forgetful, really forgetful.
Okay.
And so, for example, if I'm meeting a new friend, here's where the radical self acceptance and the radical responsibility come together.
Mm.
I met a woman recently. I really liked her. She really liked me. And after a few times, I thought we're kind of becoming friends. So I said, "There's something I'd like to share with you about myself because I sense that we're becoming closer friends, and I'd like that very much. But I want you to know something about me before this goes any further, because if this would be a deal breaker for you, I think it's better that we talk about it now."
Mm.
And I said, "I have the worst memory." And don't tell yourself it's a senior moment because I have literally been this way my entire life. And so you may pour your heart out to me about something, and I may be the best listener. I may give the best advice, the best support. I make you feel like, like a warm hug. And then a week later, I will have completely forgotten the conversation.
Mm.
It's inexplicable, but it's just one of the weird quirks about my brain. Now I've learned to take notes.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yes.
take notes after this conversation with you about things I want to remember about you for later. But I've hurt people with that
Hmm.
unintentionally.
Mhm.
And so I thought, well, I'm not going to take the chance of hurting someone unintentionally. I'm going to tell them this about myself. I'm going to
Right.
accept responsibility for it. I'm not going to hate myself because I'm this way, because I think I have plenty of other good qualities that would make me worth knowing as a friend. But if me forgetting that, your sister lives in Texas and this is your third marriage and you don't have kids because you tried, but you couldn't, like, I may not remember those things. And if you're going to be butthurt about it, and
Right.
you're gonna think this means I don't really care,
Mm.
we probably need to stop now because I will disappoint you. I will
Mm.
disappoint you, and I don't want that.
How how did that conversation go? Because I am such a proponent for using your words. And
Mm,
I think there are so many times that there is a miscommunication or a mishearing or a misunderstanding, and there's so many outside forces that can make a situation get bigger than it was
mm,
when you're not talking to each other, especially if you're
yes,
talking about it to everybody
yes,
else.
uh,
It can go really bad. So I find that so mature and so beautiful. And I can see how some people might say, "Oh, oh, thank you. I thank you. Uh, I don't think I want to be your friend." And that feels so strange. So how did this go?
well, how it went was this person thought, this is kind of awkward.
Mhm.
And I said, well, here's the thing. I like everybody and I love meeting new people, love it. But I generally have a pretty small circle of close friends. I don't have the bandwidth for it. I have 3 children, their partners, a husband, couple of dogs, good friends, neighbors I care about, some extended family like my clients. And I just know I don't have the capacity for a lot of close friendships. I would rather have fewer,
Yeah.
deeper friendships than a lot of superficial ones. I just don't find that just doesn't satiate me in any way. And it doesn't allow me to be who I am, quite honestly. So I said, yeah, I realize it's probably not something you've heard before. And to be honest with you, it's not something I've said before.
Mm.
But at this stage of my life, I think I've disappointed people because of some of the traits that I have. And in the past, if I got called out on it, I felt triggered, I
Mm.
felt shamed, and I got defensive, or I just cut him off after that.
Right.
And I don't want to be that person. So I think it's sort of better you kind of know what you're consenting to here. And I said, and by
Right.
the way, let me tell you some of the qualities that I have that I think you might find benefit from. So how it worked out over time, she goes, well, no, I get it. Like you're at first she thought maybe it was a little premature. Like, well, it's kind of like our third date, Diane. I don't know why
Right.
you're bringing out all the dirty laundry here. But I said, "No, because I can tell you like me and I like you, and I take everything I do seriously, and so I don't wanna go into something thinking I'm gonna disappoint you. It's just a matter of time," because I used to think that way about my friends, that
Hmm.
sooner or later, I'm gonna disappoint them. Sooner
Mm.
or later, I'm going to be a disappointment to them.
Mm.
So, I now we're still friends. It's been, like, 10 years,
Wow.
and, yeah, but she is usually the one who reaches out
Mm.
because her life doesn't have quite as many moving parts as mine, and she's
Sure.
not as distractible as I am. So, our little routine now is instead of getting butthurt because she hasn't heard from Diane in a couple of weeks,
Right.
she sends me the ghost emoji in a text message.
Mm.
That's it. Just the ghost, which is to say, "Are you ghosting me?"
Right.
And then if I don't respond quickly, she'll send me the poop emoji. So if I don't respond to the ghost one right away and she sends me the poop one, then I know I'm in deep doo doo.
Right. It's
So
escalating.
I immediately pick up the phone and we schedule a Zoom call because she lives far
Mm.
away. So she's
Oh.
accepted, this is how I am. And, as you can tell, I deal with a lot of things with humor.
Right.
And so I think it smooths off some of the rough edges. I will always be forgetful. She will probably always be the one to reach out, but she has learned that it is not personal and is not because I don't care, and has found enough value in the friendship that she found a way that didn't feel like she was pursuing me by sending me the ghost emoji. She's letting me know, a girl could pick up the phone a little more often, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I need to do that. And then if I don't do it right away, because I said I'm forgetful, then I get the poop and I'm like, okay, now I need to act. And I do. And we laugh about it. It's
Right.
not it's not a deal anymore.
I really love that. You created a scenario that is going to work for you. You tried something new, calling yourself out at the beginning, but
Yep.
you also, I appreciate the way that you didn't try to control how she needed to interact with you if this was going to work. Like she came up with the ghost emoji. That's hilarious. That's
Mhm.
a vibrational match of being your friend.
I
That
love that so much because she connected with me through humor,
Right.
because if she had sent even though we had this conversation up front, if she had sent me a text message in fact, come to think of it, Wendy, she did. A couple years into the friendship, she sent me a text message, it was just a question mark.
Okay.
And I thought, "Oh, she must be missing a few words here." So I just ignored it because I thought she'll just text me again because the whole thing isn't there.
Uh,
And then I heard from her husband. I could be a real dense sometimes, but then, or dunce rather. Her husband mentioned to me, you know, you really should reach out to her. She's
hmm,
hurt. She's hurt that you haven't called lately.
hmm,
And I thought, oh God, here I go again.
yeah,
'Cause I just get really wrapped up in whatever I'm doing,
sure.
and I can forget about anything that's not right in front of me, and I thought, "Okay, I've gone and done it." Even though we had that conversation in the beginning, I've gone and disappointed her, I've gone and let her down, and, and I thought, "Well, now I've gotta be contrite," and I'm genuinely I feel really bad. I
Well,
don't
you
I'm not
took the radical responsibility that you mentioned earlier. You had
yeah,
this radical self acceptance, but again, that awareness piece and that being a human piece and caring that other people live here, it really requires that second part. It requires that radical responsibility, or you will not find yourself with friends that you've had for a decade.
true, and I wanna circle back to what you said because I hadn't thought about that before. I had to leave things open for her to interpret whether or not she was willing to accept me on those terms and whether she could live with that without being resentful, because something I've really learned to pay attention to in my life is resentment.
Mm.
It's like the shadow emotion that nobody talks about. People talk about being annoyed, people talk about being frustrated, they talk about being angry, but they do not talk about resentment. Resentment is the inevitable result of chronic disappointment and lack of reciprocity. So because I know that full well, because I've been on the receiving end and the dishing end, I thought, "Oh, great, here we go." And I don't get butthurt when people don't reach out to me. In fact, my husband does not understand this. He does not understand why, like, I have a friend, Kevin, who lives near here. We are like a house on fire. I think of him like the brother I wished I'd had. We are constantly back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with each other. But now he's buying a different house, selling a house, buying a house, getting ready to move. His kids and grandkids are in town. So I haven't heard from him in a couple of months. And my husband is like, does he just dumped you? Are you like, guys, not even friends anymore? Like, what's going on? And I said, I'm sure he's otherwise occupied. It has nothing to do with me. He probably thinks of me and says, oh, I should reach out to Di, and then forgets.
Right.
And when he's ready, he'll reemerge and we'll just pick up where we left off. Do I miss him? Yes. Am I a little bit disappointed that I haven't heard from him in a while? Yes. Do I have thoughts? Is something wrong between us? Yes. I just don't entertain them anymore. I just allow things to progress as they will.
Do any of those thoughts prompt you to reach out to him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But not in the way that maybe someone else would. Like, um, I messaged him recently and said, hey, are you guys back? We're in the California desert. Are you guys back in the desert? Let me know when you're ready to go for a walk because he and I go for walks together and we get together as couples and so forth. And I didn't hear from him. So I thought, okay. So I don't just wait.
Sure.
Otherwise, that's a little passive aggressive. It's like,
Right.
well,
I was just
you know,
like, oh, I would like to understand your thought process.
no, but here's the part. It's not so much, Wendy, about do I reach out? Do they reach out? It's that if they don't reach out, and normally they do, that I do not entertain or indulge
Mm.
the opportunity to make up stories
Mhm.
about something going wrong between us. And I see so many people do this. And okay, I'm Buddhist. In my mind, that is unnecessary suffering.
Mhm. I
Like,
agree.
you're literally making up nonsense and
Mhm.
torturing yourself with it. And then most of the time we believe our own thoughts to the point where we don't even check it out.
Right.
It's like, "Why would you do that? I prefer to be happy. If Kevin doesn't like me anymore, I'll find out sooner or later."
Right. It's so true. The uninvestigated belief
Oh,
can
yes.
get us every time.
Mm. Hey, weren't you supposed to ask me a question when we
I
first
was.
started?
Yes, I was really eager to know, especially if it even expounds on this. How are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
Hmm. I think I've talked quite a bit about it already, and I'm just not throwing myself under the bus anymore.
I love
I
that.
am not shrinking. I am not hiding. I am not fading. I am not masking. It's like what you see is what you get. And if you're not here for it, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with you. I'm not judging you. I'm not going to take my ball and go home because you don't like me. I know there are people who do, and there are people who don't. And it's not like I like everybody equally well.
Right.
A lot of people my age, because I live in a community where most of the people are my age, um, I notice that a lot of people, as they get older, tend to lose their ability and their willingness to engage in play.
Mm.
So, if I were to sum up everything I've said to you about where I am at this age and stage, I am saying yes to play and
I
to
love that.
playfulness and to the playful parts of my personality because I'm happier this way. I feel younger this way. I think life is more engaging and entertaining this way. And if I get the occasional side eye, I can live with that too.
That's right.
Usually I just wink at him when I see him do that.
That's right. They came that way,
Yeah.
right? It's not a reflection on you because you don't allow it to be a
Mhm.
reflection on you. And that's so fascinating. And I love this conversation, Diann, and I love getting to know you this way because the things that I've noticed in the conversation, and I have shared those with you, of your choice to be yourself, your choice
Mhm.
to intentionally behave and show up that the way that you do, I see that in other people, and it is a reaction to what they have put up with their whole life, or they're
Mm.
just mad, and it's just a middle finger to everybody, and I don't care what any of you people think. And your decisions and your choices are not a reaction, they're a response to what is happening in you and how you desire to honor who you are and what you contribute, and this ability, this gift through your practice of being unattached, not detached, but unhooked from
Mm.
all of your meaning coming from 800 interactions that you have in a month's time. Like, that is exhausting. It
Mm.
is so much what we can get stuck in if we don't have this awareness and this knowing, which I believe can only come from a practice, from
Mm.
a daily checking in. For me, sometimes it's hourly checking in.
Mm.
What how am I feeling in my body? What is my truth? Can I sit still and hear the truth and then wait for it? And I love the way that you are living your life, and I love that you are living your life out loud so that more people have the opportunity to witness it and be inspired to take a piece that resonates with them and how they can live in to the best version of themselves.
You know what? You're reminding me of something. I don't have to be against anything or anybody to be for me.
Oh, that gives me chills.
Is that
Beautiful.
a mic drop moment? Should we
That
call
is
it quits?
mic drop. Oh my word. I have adored this conversation. I cannot wait to reach out to you. I won't wait for you to reach out to me. And
You understood the assignment.
I got it. I got it. And really just continue to glean from these practices and these choices that you're making. I'm really inspired and touched, and I appreciate this opportunity to introduce you to my listeners. So I'm so grateful. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. This was wonderful.
And is there anything you would like to share? How can people follow you, find you, be in your
Well,
orbit? All
yeah,
the
there's all kinds of places that I can be found, but I think the easiest one is since people listening are already listeners, already podcast listeners, you can hop on over to the Driven Woman Entrepreneur and check mine out. You do not have to be a woman. You do not have to be an entrepreneur. But if you are, you're probably going to like what you find there.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.